Hi there, and welcome to Ian's Engage channel. I'm Ian. I can't believe we're nearly at the end of June, and it's time for another new arrivals video. Where does the time go? Okay, so, strictly speaking, the Farish Class O08 isn't a new arrival. So let me explain why it's being featured in this video. Many of you will already know the story of this temperamental little shunter, but for those that don't, here's a short recap. I shared how happy I was when I initially purchased the model way back in 2022. I shared the bewilderment of it not responding to DCC commands. Oh, he slowed down, look. That's interesting. Slowed down and then cut out. Brilliant. I shared the dismay of it stalling on points. I shared my horror at discovering that there was paint overspray on the wheels. I shared the excitement of fixing that issue. I shared the happiness of seeing the loco circulating my test track again. But more recently, I shared the disappointment of its running issues returning. What the hell? And this time the pickups were hanging below the wheels and were fouling the track. Unfortunately, after trying to fix the problem myself, I failed miserably. I think sometimes when modelling, we have to be willing to admit defeat, and I was ready to throw in the towel and use the loco for decorative purposes only. However, I actually felt it was too nice a model to be left sitting in a siding, so I started looking for help. This is when I came across Mark's Trains. Mark offers a range of services including loco servicing and repairs, as well as offering a good range of stock and parts for sale. So the little loco was packaged up and sent off on a journey that would hopefully see it fixed. That was a few weeks ago, and the loco is now back with me. I have to say that I'm absolutely delighted with the work that's been carried out. It now runs better than it did when it was brand new, and quite happily trundles around my test track without issue. It also traverses the test track series of streamline Insulfrog points without so much as a stutter, which is great to see. Now, I showed 2 bubble-wrapped packages in the photo earlier, so what else did I send off to Mark, and why? Well, the second loco I sent away was a Farish Class 20. There wasn't actually anything wrong with the model, but I wanted it to be fitted with sound. Yes, I know I'm always complaining about the price of sound decoders, but I've also said that I love sound-fitted locos, and I don't blame anyone for wanting them. The sound decoder has been loaded with appropriate sounds for the Class 20 and features Marwick Soundscape with Rail Drive. Marwick is a joint venture between Marks Trains and Wickness Models that aims to bring more realistic sound and operation to our models. Here are a few sounds that are available. As well as the loco sounds, there are some general railway sounds.
Passengers are reminded that smoking is prohibited at all stations and on all train services.
Of course, when the loco is moving, there are other sounds that are related to that movement. There are also soundscapes, which are ambient sounds that provide additional sounds that can be played in combination or instead of the loco sounds. There are over 20 soundscapes to choose from, although I think only one can be loaded onto the sound decoder at a time. It sounds like mine has been preloaded with one of the farm options, or maybe the hedgerow option. Here's the soundscape playing while the loco is idling. Here's the soundscape playing in isolation. The reason I wanted the Class 20 fitted with sound was that they are one of my favourite sounding locos, and I spent a considerable amount of my childhood train spotting days surrounded by them at Thornaby Depot. From what I remember, they've done a terrific job of capturing the sounds. The whine of the engine alone immediately transported me back to wet weekends at Thornaby, notebook in hand, frantically scribbling down running numbers. So, I can wholeheartedly recommend Mark's Trains if you need a loco servicing, repairing or sound fitting, as I've been over the moon with how both of my locos have performed since they returned. So, if you're watching, Mark, thank you very much for your excellent service. I've put a link to the Mark's Trains website in the description. This month I've continued to collect private owner wagons and have picked up a couple more coal wagons, this time from Pico. The first one is a Shirebrook colliery wagon, numbered 159. The red paintwork really makes the wagon pop. The lettering on the wagon is nice and crisp and the moulded details look good, with individual rivets being visible all around the wagon. The second is a James Beswick Limited branded wagon, numbered 996. The wagon has a similar paint job to the Shirebrook one and also jumps out with its bright red paintwork and white lettering. The chassis details on both wagons are sufficient to keep interest but aren't overly detailed. Both wagons also run on metal wheels. Pico are very good at producing nicely detailed rolling stock for the budget-minded and do well to compete with the more expensive brands. I think the only thing that lets them down is their lack of NEM coupling pockets, which is a shame for those wanting to fit alternative couplers. Finally, I just wanted to mention that the Dad's Army wagons in Engage are now available to pre-order from Buggleskelly Station. I've put a link to the site in the description should you want one for your layout. Before concluding the video, here's a short running session showing off my growing collection of private owner wagons, running around the test track behind the newly fixed Class O08 and the newly sound fitted Class 20. Okay, so that's about it for this update. Have you ever sent any of your locos away for servicing, or do you perform it yourself? I usually try and service my own locos, but the Class O08 was a bit too tricky for me to get to grips with. What about sound fitting? The Class 20 required more than just a sound chip installing, as space had to be made within the chassis to fit a small speaker, which meant milling away part of the chassis structure. This was way beyond my skill set, so I really appreciate people like Mark who have the ability to perform such intricate engineering tasks. Let me know your experiences of upgrading and maintaining your locos. Alternatively, if you've got any hints, tips, useful tools or techniques to pass on to a beginner in Engage modelling, or if you simply want to say hello, then please do so in the comment section. Anything and everything you've got to say will be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully there'll be more new arrivals to report in the coming months. Bye.